The Unseen Battle explores the reality of CTE through the journey of NFL legend Mike Webster. An exclusive interview with author Dr. James VODVARKA begins now.
All right, welcome into a Highest Knowledge Sports Online. Here from our sponsor, as well as Richard Poe Financial Services, and the Harp and the Habit as our host. We have Jim VODVARKA here. Got a great, interesting story that we're going to talk about here. Got his book. He's going to be showcased on Inside Success. Many authors were interviewed. Jim was one of 5 selected. Going to be on showcasing September 9th. They're going to start filming, but we'll get into that later. I want to talk right now and introduce you to Jim on his outstanding story. We got some personal stories in regards to Mike Webster that we shared earlier that I hope we get a chance to talk about when he was down here for the, you had him down here for the Chamber of Commerce. But thanks for coming in, Jim. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Ray, and I appreciate you, and I just want to say something about your brother, Reno. Reno was probably the best football coach in relationship to me in Pittsburgh that I've ever known and ever watched, and he gave the Ohio Valley here a lot of things to cheer about over the past several years. And I just want to reach out to Reno and just say, listen, he's a legend down here, and I know legends out in Pittsburgh that I deal with. And it's a pleasure to come down here and speak to the Ohio Valley, where this all started. The concussion crisis originated in the Ohio Valley. I had Webster come to my office. This was in Wintersville, Ohio, in 1997 when he first got it, right after he got first inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Steve Corson, who was a teammate, brought him down here with his wife, Kathy. Unfortunately, Kathy and Steve are no longer with us. Steve passed away sometime around 2008 when he had an accident with a tree, and Kathy passed away shortly after I met Mike Webster. But it was great for them to bring him down. A friend of mine who was a teammate of Steve's at South Carolina, Bill Lane, we hunted together, and I talked to Steve, and he told me that Mike Webster was living with him at the time, that he wanted to bring him to my office because nobody believed that he suffered from mental illness. And that seemed to be the majority of the findings with Mike at the time. When I think about the first meeting, I looked at Mike and I talked to him for the first 15 minutes. And although I think Mike seen more than 20 doctors before he seen me, in 15 minutes, I knew that he had traumatic brain injury. People down here in Ohio, well, you're not a neurologist, you're an internal medicine doctor, but internal medicine encompasses everything. We see just about everything. And at that time, I was doing kind of extensive ER work in Pittsburgh and around the surrounding areas and stuff. So when I met Mike, in 15 minutes, I knew he had traumatic brain injury, just mostly because of my son. And if you're from the Ohio Valley and you know about my son, he was born with traumatic brain injury in 1988. And so at that time, I studied hours and hours and years before I met Mike about traumatic brain injury. And it was through him that I became kind of an expert in this area. And it was through him where I knew how to redirect people with traumatic brain injury and studied his mannerisms. And when I seen Mike, I seen a lot of the same mannerisms at that time, and so it led me right to believe that he had traumatic brain injury. After I examined him, I was 100% sure. So now you got a man that's really down. We're looking to get him help. What can I do first to help him? Well, my first impression was to maybe go after his pension through the NFL and see if we could get him the proper pension. But that's where that started. It started in Wintersville, Ohio. I was with Dr. Charn Nandra and Dr. Raj Madari at the time. We were partners, and that was the beginning of the concussion crisis.
You know, you used that word concussion, and it was in the book titled The Unseen Battle. You know, in the small little conversation that we had, you had an opportunity to tell me that in that movie Concussion, It wasn't really it was more Hollywood than it should have been. And maybe that's what your book talks about. Elaborate on that a little bit, Jim.
Well, if you see the movie Concussion, and let me tell you this, everything about Bennett Omalu, the pathologist, it's a true story about him. But it moves 7 years past the time. I met Mike in 97. The movie Concussion and Bennett Omalu's findings didn't come into play until 2005. And so it left out the first 7 years of the beginning of the concussion crisis. The concussion crisis started in Wintersville. As I moved forward, I couldn't do this by myself. I mean, I have several members of the Ohio Valley that pitched in to help me, most notably Bob Fitzsimmons. I was on a hunting trip with Sarjeet Singh, one of the neurologists here, and we were talking about the concussions and stuff because Dr. Singh was an expert in traumatic brain injury, and we were talking about traumatic brain injury. And there was also a guy from Wheeling, West Virginia. His name was Fred Rizovich, who was on that hunting trip with me. And not knowing Fred that well was the first meeting, I asked Fred, I says, hey, Fred, would you know an attorney that's not in an NFL city, maybe in Wheeling or in this surrounding area, that might be able to take on the case that I have with probably one of the most biggest corporations in the world? I didn't say the NFL. And somebody who can take on somebody like that and wouldn't be intimidated, and this is all in the book, but I'll just recap it. Fred said, sure. First words out of his mouth was Bob Fitzsimmons, okay? And he spit out Eddie Zagula's name, but he said Bob Fitzsimmons is your man. So through Fred Rizovich, and Mike Nogue was there, and he kind of weighed in on it and said, yeah, oh, yeah, Fred Rizovich is the best. So, I mean, I want the best for Mike. And then we brought Mike into the picture, and I said, well, this case is pretty interesting. It's about Mike Webster, and I think he's got brain damage from playing football, and I want to give him some help. And I need somebody that's going to be able to stand up to the National Football League. And this is after the fact, before I presented it with him. And Fred just came back right away and said, Bob Fitzsimmons is your man. And that's how I got Bob Fitzsimmons lined up. Some other players with us, we call ourselves Team Webster in a book, and it's a name that Sonny Johnny gave us. Sonny Johnny was a man that got Mike to all his appointments. Never missed an appointment. When I first met Mike, he wasn't reliable to go to appointments, and Sonny made sure he got to his appointments on time. And Sonny was reliable, and he loved Mike. He loved the story of Mike getting into the Hall of Fame. And I don't think he's seen Mike play very long, but he knew how good of a football player Mike was. And he stuck by the team, and he was one of the rocks that we had in this team. Bob Fitzsimmons and Sonny Johnny were very important players in the concussion crisis as we see it today. We also had Fred Craig, who was a psychologist from Parkersburg. We had Jonathan Himmelhock, who was a neuropsychologist in Western Psych at the University of Pittsburgh, who was board certified and everything and wrote about everything. This guy was a genius. And we also had Charles Kelly, who was a family practice doctor and a friend of Bob's, and he helped me with Mike, get him his prescriptions, and I couldn't always be in town, so when I wasn't around, Chuck Kelly wrote Mike his prescriptions and made sure that Mike was okay and didn't need anything. It was a great team. Later on, and I talked about this guy, one of the most important parts of our team didn't come from our team, but he later became part of our team because he sided with our team. Mike got rejected for his pension 5 times, and the NFL at that point in the pension plan is called the Burt Bell pension plan, and it's for NFL players. There's 2 types of pensions you get, football active and football degenerative. If you got disabled within 2 years after playing professional football, you were called football active. If you got hurt during a game, you got called football active. If it happened after 2 years and like arthritis and different conditions that arise from football players, such as that, they would call it football degenerative. Mike fit the case for football active, which is the highest level of pension you can get in the NFL, but he didn't apply right away. And after talking to Bob Fitzsimmons, we found out that we could apply for retroactive benefits. I thought Mike was disabled when he left the Steelers, but we had to work with the NFL and the pension plan, and he played 2 more years in Kansas City, which did him probably irreparable harm, though nobody knew what CTE was at the time, or nobody knew what Webster's problem was at the time, but Mike should have never played past the Steelers. He was disabled the day he left the Steelers, and I stand by that 100%, even though we didn't agree to that. I think it went back to 1992 when Mike retired from the Chiefs. That's when football active would be processed, and that's what we agreed on, but I don't agree with that necessarily. So the NFL required that we get an independent examiner who they picked, who was in Cleveland. And, you know, my first thinking about that is, oh man, here we go again. There's another biased doctor that's going to see Mike and come up with some opinions that are biased in terms of the NFL, because the NFL never wanted this concussion crisis to move forward with Webster. So they sent us to Cleveland Health, or University Health in Cleveland. And there was a doctor who was a neurologist for the Cleveland Browns. His name was Charles Westbrook. And Charles Westbrook talked to me before he seen Mike, and we kind of discussed the case a little bit. And he told me he would call me back after he examined Mike. It's surprising at this time, Ray, because one of the things I said was to Westbrook was, you know, I want to just tell you something. Mike got some type of a progressive dementia here, and I don't think Mike can get right at this point in life, could have got through high school, let alone be active and be able to function in life. He couldn't hold a job as an NBC commentator. He didn't show up for appointments with other work that was related to football. The Kansas City Chiefs made him an offensive line coach. He just couldn't work. I mean, his thought process was totally distorted. So anyways, he goes up and sees Charles Westbrook, and this is probably one of the biggest things for our case. Charles Westbrook calls me back. He says, I only disagree with you on one issue. I don't think Mike can finish 6th grade now. You're right. Everything you said about Mike Webster was right. He's demented. It's related to brain trauma, and he should get football active disability benefits. And so he wrote a letter to this regard. We submitted it to the NFL, and lo and behold, he got rejected again from their own expert. So that Bob Fitzsimmons was seeing blood at this time, okay? So we got together, and he said, listen, this is going to go on. Because every time we put something in, they find a legal description that they don't like, and then they want us to clarify it, and they give us 2 weeks to clarify it, or they close the case. So anyways, things progressed, and Bob just kept up with it, and it took him longer to get back to us, so it gave us more time. But during that time period, Mike deteriorated, and toward the end, Mike progressively got worse. I mean, he was worse than when I first seen him. He had one incident where he got arrested for writing Ritalin prescriptions. It wasn't from one of my prescriptions. It was from a Dr. Carter, who he seen before he knew me. But Dr. Carter would give Mike Ritalin, saying that it would help his cognitive function and give him short periods of time where he'd be able to function cognitively. Now,
how was he at that time? Was he able to function at all? I mean, I remember when, I don't know what year it was, but you brought him down to the Chamber of Commerce here in Steubenville. We had it at the Steubenville Country Club, and he was quite comical. I mean, he had a good time talking about Reno and making fun of Reno, which I loved, and Reno took it all in good fun and everything. But your focus was on the fact of trying to get him the NFL pension, knowing that this dementia as it is was just going to get worse, wasn't going to get better?
Well, the thing with Mike, okay, dealing with him over the first couple years, I pretty much studied him, and I knew when he was cognitive. If he was very relaxed, sometimes he'd be able to talk, and his thought process was relatively good. But if he got nervous or he got into a situation that he was uncomfortable with, his thought content was horrible. So, I mean, go back to the concussion trial, or not concussion, but the Ritalin trial. Mike, we went into a room in one of the hotels in Pittsburgh, and Randy Grossman showed up, Mel Blount showed up, Rocky Bleier showed up, Terry Bradshaw was available, I think, on a phone call, but Mike was there, Bob Fitzsimmons was there, Sonny was there, and we had a team that helped us deal with Mike. And he came into that meeting when we were sitting in the back room, and he couldn't even remember his name, let alone come up and give a prepared statement. And he had a prepared statement that turned out to be very important. So I got together with Bob and I says, listen, does somebody have Mike's Ritalin tablets? Because if we give him a Ritalin tablet 15 to 20 minutes before he goes on there, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes to work. Then he usually has between 20 and 30 minutes of cognitive function that's actually pretty good. So Bob agreed to it, and we did give him the Ritalin tablet. Mike went up there that day and gave one of the best prepared statements that I've ever heard in my life, not only for an athlete, but for people that would be journalists or people that speak all the time. Mike did a perfect job, and he apologized for his crime, which turned out not to be a crime. We proved that later, but he apologized for his crime, and then he apologized to his fans, saying, listen, if I deserve to go to jail, then I'm going to go to jail, because if I'm found guilty and I did something wrong, it was my doing, and nobody here at this table or nobody here in this conference had anything to do with it except me. And so he took blame for everything that wasn't his blame, because when Mike wasn't right, his mental function wasn't right. So he did a perfect job. That's, I think, you said it was the Chamber of Commerce?
Yes.
I think that dinner was before that.
Okay.
And that's the first time I experimented with Ritalin with Mike, and I gave it to him right before he went on stage, because I knew they were going to wait a while before he spoke. And he come up, and I remember the joke as you.
He was a joy. He was a joy.
He come up, and I think Reno got all the awards at that point.
Yeah.
And he was sitting between Tim McCoy, I believe, and Reno, and he come up on stage, and his first joke was, well, it's going to be hard for me to beat the opening act, because sitting next to Jesus wasn't easy.
Yeah, that was it, man. That was it, man.
And I'm going to say something. I got all the respect. As I said at the beginning of this interview, Reno Surkoch has been one of the best things that ever happened to the Ohio Valley. Not only a great football coach, he reminded me of Chuck Noll. He did things silently, and he did things with authority. That's what makes a good coach. And Chuck Noll ended up being a good friend of mine toward the end. We're not going to be able to get into this in a short talk, but Chuck Noll was at the funeral, and I talked to him and Dan Rooney, and we came into agreement on Mike's cause of death, because I was in the cath room when he was cathed, and I knew exactly what was going on. Mike died of a heart attack. He didn't die of anything related to CTE, but CTE definitely controlled his life.
Yeah, it's so prevalent now, but you were involved at the ground level. I mean, it's because that's all the NFL talks about now.
Mike and I were the true ground level of the concussion crisis, as you see it now, that has spread around the world. My book will show this. The records that we have when he had the Ritalin trial, I mean, at that time, I was the first doctor, and I did this on my feet because I thought about it, and I was we didn't call it CTE at that time because CTE hadn't been discovered. But at that time, I think it was Stan Sabrin asked me a question and it came from Dan Rooney. He said, listen, Mike never had a single concussion when he played for the Steelers. It's not documented. We did his records. He hasn't gone to the trainers. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're saying that he's got post-concussion syndrome. How can this be post-concussion syndrome? And that time I said, wait a second, let's stop here, Stan. It wasn't a concussion or 2 concussions or 10 concussions that hurt Mike Webster. It was repetitive brain trauma coming off the line of scrimmage, head-to-head on every play in the 70s. He was always the smaller man, maybe not always, but 90% plus times he came off the line of scrimmage. He was usually the smaller man. And coming with that degree of force that these guys had and the power that these guys had, it was repetitive brain trauma. It wasn't 1 concussion or 2 concussions. Repetitive brain trauma caused the CTE. I called it cognitive dysfunction at the time. And I kind of made that phrase up. I don't know if anybody else ever said it, but I was put under fire, and you know, I was very excited to be able to speak for Mike. And it turns out that conference like kind of set the tone for me as the doctor taking care of concussions, because it showed that I was the first doctor that recognized that traumatic brain injury, repetitive brain trauma, caused CTE, which was later discovered, which Dr. Omalu discovered. And Dr. Omalu is a great man, and he was a great pathologist. He worked with one of my colleagues and one of my doctors that I trained with at the University of Pittsburgh and West Penn when I worked there, Cyril Wecht. And Cyril Wecht was the best. I can't say anything more than that. And so Cyril Wecht was in on this with me through Dr. Roy Titchworth, who was a medical student with Cyril Wecht back in the University of Pittsburgh. So I knew Titchworth, and I used to go over to Titchworth's house, and Cyril used to be there, and we'd talk about this. So Cyril was well knowledgeable about Mike's condition and how I theorized that Mike got the condition, and Cyril agreed. So,
can you elaborate? I mean, like all the stories that we heard about Mike Webster, you know, living in his truck and pulling his own teeth out. Is that all accurate?
Unfortunately, some of that's true. I never seen Mike tase himself. They used to say he tased himself to sleep. I never seen that. I know that he super glued his teeth sometimes.
Right.
I never seen him pull one out, but that's possible because Mike did have a couple loose teeth at one time. When Sonny met Mike, and Sonny met him well before I met Sonny, I think Sonny did say that he met him at the bus office or bus station in Pittsburgh, and that he was just sitting there just like the paper said he was, and he took him in, and you know, at that time, I think the Steelers got him a hotel room and put him up, and then somehow he ended up with Steve Corson, and that's how he ended up with me.
Wow. I mean, it's a story that's been well received. You told me about Japan and Australia. Elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, unfortunately, I don't get too much press coverage in the United States about the concussion crisis, but in other countries, I get on their talk shows and different TV appearances, and I got more of a TV appearance in Australia. Now, Japan, I don't have any TV experience, but when books are selling in Australia, some of them ended up in Japan, and there's quite a big following now in Japan with our books. Our books sell in China, Japan, Australia, England, and I'm not sure the exact number of the foreign countries, but it's in several foreign countries now, and it's selling through Amazon and other outlets through these countries.
What about your opportunity here coming up, as you said, on September 9th with the Inside Success Legacy Edition?
This is a new announcement. I haven't even announced that on Facebook yet. Yeah, I interviewed with other doctors for.
Oh, so we brought it first here on Ohio Valley Sports Online.
You brought it first on Ohio Valley Sports Online. I interviewed with Inside Success with Mr. Hutok, who contacted me through Facebook. I seen him through Facebook, and he recommended me to fill out an application for this show. So, I mean, the application didn't ask for any credit cards or any personal information. Just asked, what's your story? How old are you? What's your phone number? And what's your email number? And I filled that out in about 20 minutes. The next day I got contacted and said that they were going to have a casting call, and I can't remember the exact day, but it was somewhere around the 13th, 14th, or 15th of the month. Or wait, no, it actually came later than that. It came after the 20th, and I'm sorry, I just don't remember the exact date. But I went online, and I was interviewed by Mr. Hooktok. He was in South Africa at the time, and he said that I would be getting a call from the casting group the next day, and that from his perspective, I was green-lighted to be on the show. So right after I got off the phone with him, one of the producers reached out to me and told me that he thought that my show was one of the best that were coming out for this season, and told me that I would definitely have a chance to be on this show. So I start filming Inside Success authors, Amazon authors, on September 9th, and I'm going to do a 25-minute segment by myself, and this will be highlighted not only in the United States but internationally, and should do very well.
The book touches home, has the potential to touch home with so many people, you know, whether you're football fans, a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, a family member suffering with dementia. I mean, it touches so many areas that it's going to draw interest from all walks of life.
Let me tell you about this book. It's not a football book. This book's a story about a humanitarian mission that myself and my team went on to help Mike Webster. We didn't try to change the NFL. We weren't worried about rules. We were trying to help Mike Webster. This book, I wrote this for the one main purpose, to honor Mike Webster. A second reason why I wrote this book, I don't believe concussion did our team any favors. I think they left the 7 years out. It wasn't Bennett Omalu who changed the rules in football. It was this lawsuit that we filed against the Burt Bell pension plan that changed all the rules. In fact, Garrett Webster went and spoke in front of Congress in 2008 or 2009. I mean, a lot of attention got called to professional football.
Yep.
After we won this lawsuit. Let me just say one more thing. Bennett Omalu right now is getting all the credit for the concussion crisis. Bennett Omalu's findings were never used in our lawsuit. So everything that we're doing here is based on Bob Fitzsimmons, myself, and Sonny Johnny, and the team that I explained before. And, you know, Bob Fitzsimmons is a rock star.
Yep.
And he never gave up. Even when Mike died, Bob kept it going. He needed to get help because when you sue a pension plan, you have to go through a law that's called ERISA. It gets very complicated. But Bob was very capable of doing this by himself, but to get through the ropes, he had to get another attorney involved later on, and I don't know that attorney's name. I'm sorry, but Bob's a rock star.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say anything bad about Bob Fitzsimmons. Very, very influential in his field of work. You know, the way I hear you say that, this being a humanitarian mission, you guys tried to save a guy's life and, you know, make it right. I mean, you know, that's a credit to you. God bless you on
100%, 100%. Mike Webster, let me tell you something about Mike, too. Once Mike knew we were right, and there was a point, like, about 2 years before he died, he knew we were right. Mike used to sit, and Mike always called me Jimbo, and some of the Steelers still call me Jimbo, or from his team, and even some of the newer ones. He'd say, Jimbo, you don't realize this, but there's a lot of players out here that are worse than I am. And I'd really like to do something for these players. I don't want anybody to have to go through what I went through. So he spent the last 2 years of his life up in Barnes & Noble and other bookstores and researching and sending letters out. And his last 2 years of his life, he was dedicated to helping not just the Steelers, that, I mean, Terry Long died of probably complications of CTE, Justin Strelzik. I mean, multiple.
Oh, the list goes on.
The list goes on and on. It's funny about Terry Long because he committed suicide a day before he was going to come down here to Steubenville and see me. So, I mean, I wish I'd have got to him because I might have been able to hold him off. But, you know, Sonny was talking to him and he had him arranged to come down here. He was even going to go up and pick him up, and we found out that he took his own life.
Well, a lot of the players face that today, and I think because of your efforts to help Mike Webster, you brought attention to all levels of everything in regards to head trauma and sports.
And in terms of Mike Webster and I'm going to say this because when you read my book, it's 100% truth about the beginning of the concussion crisis and the sequences that led to the rules and laws that are set up by the NFL today. You got to know that 5,000 players sued the NFL for CTE shortly after we won this lawsuit. And I know $1 billion was set away for those players. Mike helped a lot of people, and he put his name out there. I know Harry Carson from the Giants came to his funeral. Peterson, the guy from the Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, was at his funeral. There was players that I didn't even know that was at Mike's funeral that stood behind us and offered their help. Terry Bradshaw was there. Of course, Franco, Mel Blount, Lynn Swann. Lynn Swann spoke unbelievably at Mike's funeral. Yeah, I mean, it was, you know, right after Mike died, started gaining traction. And like I say, the next step was Bob Fitzsimmons, and he took it. Bob Fitzsimmons hit a home run.
All right, anything else you want to add, Jim?
No, but Ray, hey, it's been a pleasure.
I'm going to tell you something. I mean, you got my ears open because this is something that I can't wait to start to read this book. You know, High Valley Sports Online is proud to be a part of this, you know, and help you in any way to advance your story and the story of Mike Webster and what he did for the many players to follow him now, because he did groundbreaking stuff, you know, and you were involved in that because, like I said, it's a high point of what's going on in the NFL now in every sport.
Right. And it's all around the world now.
Yes.
It's not just in our football. It's all around the world. It's in Australia. It's in England. It's in Singapore. It's in Japan. I mean, it's all around the world. It's in China. It's in Russia. Everywhere. I mean, everybody jumped on the bandwagon once they knew that this was a real thing. And it was our lawsuit. It was Mike Webster. It was Jim VODVARKA. It was Bob Fitzsimmons. It was Sonny Johnny. And it was our team that brought this to light. I just want to say a few more things before we sign off.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be starting a marketing deal with iHeartRadio and WDVE. And tomorrow I meet with Mike Prizzuto with WDVE, and he's going to help me market this book. Hopefully we can reach out to more people. As you know, or may or may not know, iHeartRadio streams coast to coast.
Oh, absolutely.
And so we're going to do the streaming to the sports stations. I'm thinking I'm going to be on a lot of podcasts here in the near future. We're going to do the television show. But one thing I wanted to reach out and say, I started Facebook a few days more than a month ago, and the reach out that I had from the Ohio Valley was phenomenal. The same thing in Pittsburgh. I mean, I had people who I hadn't spoken to in 60 years, a lot of them 50 plus years. I mean, people reached out beyond belief. And I want to thank all the fans in the Ohio Valley, all the Webster fans. Keep on going, man. Keep on going. And all the fans in Pittsburgh that reached out. One more thing I'm going to say. One of my mentors is Dick Citrone. And I met with him yesterday for 4 hours. Dick Citrone is a legend in McKees Rocks and a legend in Pittsburgh. He was a basketball coach for Stowe Rocks, and Dick Citrone played at the University of Cincinnati, and he played with Oscar Robinson. Now, they won a national title, and back in those days, a national title got you a trophy about this big.
Yeah.
But I think that team was the start of the National Basketball League, because between Oscar Robinson and Wilt Chamberlain and some of the Havlicek and some of the other stars that came up shortly after that, basketball took off. So Dick Citrone has an award named after him in Pittsburgh, the Citrone Award, and it's given to the best basketball players in the into the WPAL in Pittsburgh. I'm not the Ohio Valley, but we're still the Ohio Valley in Pittsburgh. But yeah,
next door.
Yep, and that's where the Ohio River starts. So anything beyond that's the Ohio Valley.
So along with Dick Citrone, Stowe Rocks has given us Jim VODVARKA, Billy Mays, and Danny Vogel.
And Chuck Fusina.
Chuck Fusina.
And John Kasich.
There you go.
Yeah.
John Kasich, the governor of Ohio.
Yes, he was. He's from McKees Rocks. His father was my mailman. Yeah. And Billy Mays, he went to Davis School with us. Davis School, when Warren Hall and I'm going to tell you too, my two co-authors in this book, Warren and Annette Hall, they're rock stars. They wrote several books together. They just unveiled the Bugsy Siegel case, and they broke it in Los Angeles. So that's coming out. They're going to have a documentary and a book related to that. They were rock stars, and
you're running in famous circles, Jimmy.
Oh my God! Hey.
You're running in famous circles. Hey, we wish you all the luck in the world. We wish you all God's blessings, and we hope that you'll come back and spend some time with us again.
Ray, I want to sign a book for you.
I appreciate that very much.
I'm going to give you one for Reno, too.
I appreciate that.
Ohio Valley.
I'm telling him you're still trying to make amends for when Mike Webster beat him up at the Chamber of Commerce.
And that was all just a joke. If you know Mike Webster and Terry Bradshaw, they were pranksters in the locker room, and that was all a joke. And Reno took it that way, I'm
Yes,
sure.
he did. Absolutely. It was all good fun.
Ohio Valley's lucky to have the Surkach brothers. And Reno, God bless you. I wish you all the best. I know you probably don't have much time left in coaching, but you left your mark. God bless you. You were the best down here, and you gave people a lot of happiness in this valley. People of the Ohio Valley, I thank you all. When I was a doctor here, you're very kind. I see a lot of messages referencing to that when I'm on Facebook and everything, and unfortunately at some point here in Facebook it's going to get much less personal, because later this week somebody's going to take that over for me. But I'll always get feedback from her, and if I see something that I want to reach out, I will reach out. So I'll be looking. Don't stop writing.
Well, we're proud to be a part of it, Jim, and we wish you God's blessing.
One other thing, if you read my book and you liked it, go on Amazon and give us a good review. We're trying to get 500 reviews before I go on television.
And your book's available on Amazon, right?
It's available on Amazon in a hardcover. This is the hardcover I'm holding here. We have a paperback. Dan's got the paperbacks, and it's also on Kindle. I think sometime in October it's going to be read, and we're going to have an audio portion of it too.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to thank everybody for watching this. We hope that you'll take the opportunity to read this book. This is groundbreaking stuff from right here in our backyard with Dr. Jim VODVARKA, Bob Fitzsimmons, as he mentioned, and his whole team. Once again, the Ohio Valley makes a mark in the world today. So with that, we're going to close for now. Jimmy, anything else you want to add?
I just want to show that I'm autographing a book for Ray right now, and please, if you see me, don't ever be afraid to ask me to sign your book. I love you, Ohio Valley.
All right, thank you.